Hello, a very good morning. Welcome along to Ireland AM on Virgin Media Television. It's Tuesday the 2nd of July.
It's absolutely lovely to have you with us this morning. We hope that we find you well. We've got loads coming up on the show, so we'll take a peek.
We sure do. First up, Donald Trump is celebrating a major win after the Supreme Court made a decision in his immunity case. We're going to find out what exactly that means at 7:15.
Now, a recent report found that more than 50,000 patients had their operations, procedures and their appointments cancelled in the first 3 months of the year. If this is something that has affected you or your family, we would love to hear from you. Or if you're working in a hospital, 089 611 111. We'll be chatting at 7:35.
Insane, isn't it? Yes, also coming up on the show, she's the country's first ever party leader to become pregnant. The Social Democrats leader, Holly Cairns, is going to join us to talk about the future of her party at 8:15.
He's so tired from being up watching the football last night. The emotions of Ronaldo. Are you okay?
Ronaldo, the penalty, shootout. Telling you, I was on
No,
the
genuinely, you
I was
were.
on the side of the bed.
Yeah, side of the bed.
Side of the bed.
That's it.
Now, lots more to come. Jennifer Rock, aka the Skin Nerd, talks about the dangers of DIY skincare hacks. Plus, she's going to answer your viewers' questions. So if you have any skin-related questions, do get them into us. 089 611 111. On the catwalk, we're looking at the summer trends that sort of fallen off the radar. Plus, in the kitchen, we have a seafood recipe with a spicy kick. Now, Deric's in Rathfarnham this morning. What's on the agenda today, Deric?
Good morning now. We're live here in South County Dublin now. It is a dry and settled start for most years. Already showers though hitting counties Galway, Mayo, Sligo and into Roscommon, and it looks like the best of the sunshine really out there across the southern half of the island. So it is an improving one as we edge our way through the 2nd of July. Now, just over my shoulder, of course, we've got the DSPCA. It's a shelter for cats and dogs, as most of you know, but also a shelter for larger animals such as pigs, goats and geese. We're going to be paying them a visit a little bit later on this morning. We're also going to be opening up their small animal rescue shelter. We've even got a guinea pig lined up to chew through the ribbon. It's just an ordinary day in my life. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Deric. Look forward to seeing the guinea pigs that you have over there. All right.
Time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. The headline there, aircraft and crews leased by Aer Lingus. Aer Lingus is leasing aircraft and crews from other operations to aid in combating industrial action by pilots as the Labour Court talks to resolve this long-running pay row between the pair. It continues.
Taoiseach is warned we may be building too many houses. Housing demand may be significantly below the 50,000 houses a year Taoiseach Simon Harris promised to deliver, potentially setting the country on course for an oversupply problem that echoes of Celtic Tiger crash. That's the front of the Irish Independent.
And a story on the front of the Examiner that says the exact opposite thing, but it also says 40% use sunbeds despite knowing skin risks. Cork-based doctors and researchers have found that almost half of the population have used sunbeds, and that many who sunbathe believe it is worth getting, quote, slightly sunburned to get a tan.
My nights out now end in tears over what he did to me. A young woman who was raped by a Dublin taxi driver has said she was told getting a taxi was the safest option after a night out. But instead it turned out to be her worst nightmare. That's the top story on the Herald.
The Sun's front page, Border Fox joins ranks of the homeless, notorious former terror boss, Desi Border Fox O'Hare. The 69-year-old, who is suspected of involvement in 30 killings, is holed up in a homeless shelter after walking free from prison last week.
The Star goes with Natasha's joy as Crotty's sentence appealed. Assault victim Natasha O'Brien has welcomed a bid to appeal her attacker Cathal Crotty's suspended sentence as promised to keep up her campaign.
The Daily Mail's front page, Natasha, the right thing is being done with Crotty case appeal. Natasha O'Brien has said the right thing is being done after the Director of Public Prosecutions ordered an appeal of the suspended sentence that her attacker received.
Yes, and finally the Mayor goes with thank God as the DPP lodged an appeal against Cathal Crotty's suspended sentence. Natasha O'Brien said, thank God the right thing is being done.
And some of the horrific things that are being said to her on her social media. We'll talk about that in just a little while, but after the break we'll discuss why Donald Trump is a happy man today after the Supreme Court voted in his favour.
Yes, we're going to explain everything after this short break. See you back here shortly.
Welcome back. Now, yesterday, the Supreme Court in the United States ruled that former President of the country, Donald Trump, has some immunity from prosecution in his election interference case.
Joining us, that story and everything else this morning is Hugh O'Connell from the Sunday Times. Good morning to you, Hugh.
How are you?
Let's start with this Supreme Court ruling yesterday on Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot to it. Can you try?
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. So, as best you can, tell us what happened yesterday.
So, viewers might remember that about 8 years ago, when he started out campaigning to be president the first time, Donald Trump said that he could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and he wouldn't lose popularity. Well, now, this verdict yesterday says that he may not even be prosecuted for shooting someone if he walked down Fifth Avenue and did that. So, what this is a Supreme Court ruling on a case that is basically says that he doesn't have absolute immunity from prosecution, or sorry, he does have absolute immunity from prosecution for official acts which fall within the exclusive sphere of constitutional authority. So basically, it was adjudicating on a case related to Trump over trying to reverse the results of the 2020 election, particularly around putting pressure on his vice president, Mike Pence, not to certify the result in the US Senate. So it sent the case back to a lower court to interpret their findings, but it limits the scope of prosecution against Trump, and crucially it means that this case will not be decided before the election in November. Three of the 9 judges dissented, all of them appointed by either Barack Obama or Joe Biden, and they basically said that this gives the president far-reaching powers in terms of being able to order the Navy SEALs to assassinate a political rival, or to organise a military coup to retake power or consolidate power. So what they're warning is that this is very broad in its scope. And Joe Biden, the US president, came out last night and said that he also dissents from this verdict, because and what it does for the Democrats, I think, is it paints a very clear choice to voters, is that if you vote for Donald Trump, you're voting for this kind of constitutional authoritarianism versus democracy.
Well, an awful lot of the headlines last night were, "We have just created a king." That we have put in place a king.
I mean, look, the verdict is far-reaching. It will have implications that we're still trying to digest, and people are still trying to digest in the United States. But certainly, this gives Donald Trump the potentially more power than he could ever have dreamed of. And as I said, what it does do is that it puts this case off until after the election. And if Trump wins, he can just order the Justice Department to drop this case anyway.
Yeah, to get rid of this anyway. Yeah. But I mean, it's a bit frightening, isn't it? That you're suddenly giving, not Trump, but like anybody who's the president of the United States, these powers that they can do this, do anything like that. And because you're doing it under the guise of president, you have immunity for it.
Yeah, I mean, effectively it's saying if the president...
If you're doing it under the guise of the president of the United States, you're immune.
It sets a higher bar for prosecutors now in this case to actually, prove that he acted illegally in doing some of these acts, because he can kind of argue, well, it's an act I undertook as president in my official capacity.
Yeah, if he did it
because if he did it as president, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So trying to stop the election, trying to stop the result, doesn't matter. I was president at the time. I can do that type of thing.
It is frightening.
It is.
To be
Absolutely.
it's nothing to joke about, because it looks like the dismantling of democracy. He's already said that he's going to, if he gets back in, create a power whereby he can override the House of Representatives. Obviously, you're not allowed to fire civil servants for any sort of reason, be that a bus driver up to a judge. He wants to bring in a power where he can fire anyone regardless. This is a law he wants to bring in. These are far-reaching consequences. If you've heard of Project 2025, it's terrifying, but it feels like all of this is getting a little bit closer, and we're living in The Handmaid's Tale.
Well, it does feel like it's getting closer, because, I mean, like, what's the thing we know most about the US election in the last week is that Joe Biden put in a pitiful performance in the debate last week.
When you look back on it, it's actually...
it's horrendous. And I think that has seared now into the brains of a lot of voters in the United States, where they just can't vote for Joe Biden because he doesn't look like he's capable of being president, let's be frank about it, based off that performance. So Donald Trump was already ahead in the polls. That debate performance doesn't appear to have shifted the polls substantially. But as it stands, Donald Trump is on course, I think, for re-election in November. So you're right, it's coming very close now.
Yeah, and the Democrats not having stepped in and gone, OK, Biden, you need to step aside.
So we'll see. So look, I kind of see that debate last weekend as a game changer. I don't see this as much of a game changer.
What was the choice last week? Because I said they all went to Camp David. they all got around Biden and they came out then and go, no, he's going to run. So obviously his top advisors or people still going, yes, the family were all there and going, yeah, you should run. Would Kamala Harris had to stand in, or what would have happened?
What would have happened if he'd have stepped out?
Yeah.
Well, there would have been a contest, I assume, and then there'd be the Democratic convention later this summer, which would
Pete Buttigieg, there was a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, Kamala Harris would have been the presumptive nominee because she's the vice president.
I think we're all just looking in going, is this actually happening in our lifetime? Is this real? Anyway, we're going to move on to, speaking of broken countries, this is, the DPP has appealed the sentence in the Crotty case. Cathal Crotty had a suspended sentence for assaulting Natasha O'Brien, who was on the show here with us last week.
Yeah, so I don't think this comes as any great surprise, but she's obviously welcomed it. She thinks it's the right thing to happen. I think a lot of people think it's the right thing to happen. The DPP appeals this. They had up to 28 days to decide it. So there was a 3-year suspended sentence imposed on Cathal Crotty for the assault of Natasha O'Brien. And it could take about a year, I think, potentially to work its way through the courts. Because when you look into it, this is quite complex now again, and what they have to do. Yeah, no, exactly, yeah. So it's an appeals process, takes some considerable time. There is some doubt, or not some doubt rather, but there is some questions being asked about what this means for Cathal Crotty's future in the Defence Forces and whether the Defence Forces can proceed with dismissing him because this matter is now under appeal. But the early indications are that they'll still be able to do that because he was found guilty and a sentence was imposed. The DPP is appealing the sentence; they're not appealing the verdict necessarily. So I think it's still pretty likely that Cathal Crotty will be dismissed from the Defence Forces. But obviously, I think Natasha O'Brien and everyone who is supporting her and everyone who looks at this case on its merits would like to see that the judge or the courts rule that he serve some time in prison for this assault. Because
the whole thing is about deterrence, and Natasha has talked about what is the deterrent here when it comes to these sort of gender-based violence, but she also talked about violence of men against men, about this sort of thing. She was like, it's not just that. What's the deterrent for the increasing violence on the street? But what's happening is, so on her social media, like if you go on her social media now, and the posts underneath are shocking. Two, as he said, quoting what Cathal Crotty put on Snapchat, 2 punches to put her down, how many to shut her up? She deserved it, she's mouthy. This is where we are now.
But this is where we are, because Natasha O'Brien has taken the decision to be very public about her case and very open about her case and has taken a very brave stand. And it's the reason, I think, why we're talking about this still. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation about calling out the brutal assault of women. And we're going to talk about another case now in a minute.
Yeah, with Blanard Riley. Well, fill us in on that then, your Riley, yes.
So this is her assailant was, her rapist was sentenced yesterday to 8 years in prison. So she waived her right to anonymity. And Jonathan Moran, who carried out a vicious rape, the details of which are too much for any broadcast, really, quite frankly. So he will serve 8 years in prison, and she has welcomed that verdict. But she has said that we need to talk about young men not calling out their peers. She made the point that she's had a lot of messages from women supporting her and older men supporting her, but not younger men. And this seems to be an issue repeatedly amongst younger men, where they're not calling out their peers and they're not calling out this kind of horrific behaviour.
Because it's seen as like an us versus them thing? Like what?
I don't know what it is, Muireann, because it's not something I as a man identify with. It's not something that I can readily get my head around. But I guess what it comes down to is young boys, education, educating them to treat women in a respectful way and to not treat them in this kind of horrific manner and to not talk about them in this sort of horrific manner.
Exactly.
And to create this kind of culture that engenders this kind of potential for violent behaviour by men.
Absolutely. Exactly. We had that report, of course, about domestic violence, highest it's ever been in Ireland, the reports, and well done to Blanard Riley for coming out. It was absolutely unbelievable.
She was incredible yesterday as well. So the two of them in the last week.
It's just a damning
really
indictment,
strong,
though,
but really strong women.
We only talk about this when women
come out
and talk about it because they feel they have to.
So we might be building too many houses.
Or too few.
Too few.
The thing is now, housing demand may be below Simon Harris' 50,000 a year report, but we may be building more than we need. Depending on what?
Well, depending really on population trends over the next few years. So this is a particular interpretation of an ESRI report that's out today, which says that demand for new homes could be as low as 35,000 a year if the recent surge in immigration abates. Now, I don't think, looking at kind of global migration patterns, that the recent surge in immigration is going to abate. So they're estimating that between 35 and I think 53,000 homes could be needed over the next few years. So I think we'll land somewhere in the midpoint of that, probably about 44,000 per year. But they're warning, I guess, that it could create the potential for the sort of Celtic Tiger era issues of oversupply.
But we're also at a state where, at the highest of Celtic Tiger, we're like 7 times, like we're way above what the housing prices were at the height of the boom.
No, absolutely, yeah, yeah. So, and there's reasons for that, inflation, all these kind of things, but absolutely. One of the points that Owen O'Brien is making today, the Sinn Féin housing spokesperson, is that this report was not asked to examine, because I think it was commissioned by the Housing Minister, Darragh Bryan. They weren't asked to examine pent-up demand, so demand that already exists within the economy. And we know all about that because of all of the people who can't get on the housing ladder right now.
Oh, so it's just looking at future migration patterns.
Forward, yeah. Well, it's just looking at future migration population pattern, but it's not taking account of the tens of thousands of people who are here and can't get a house.
Yeah, and people living with their parents and the people not doing anything.
These kind of things. So I think I don't think we're in danger of having too many houses over the next 5 years.
Anyone who is living at home with their parents wants to get in contact with us and to comment on that, we'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111 from the Sunday Times. Hugh O'Connell, thank you so much for joining us this morning for all of that. Back with you in a minute on Ireland AM. Now, welcome back. In the first 3 months of the year, more than 50,000 patients had their operations and appointments cancelled in hospitals.
Well, Director of Irish Patients Association, Steve McMahon, joins us now to discuss this. And of course, we'd love to ask you at home if this has affected you. We'd love to get in touch. 0896 111 111. Stephen, 3 months of the year, first 3 months, 50,000 patients' appointments cancelled. Why?
There's a lot of reasons why, but the main contributing factor is the overcrowding in emergency departments is the main trigger for that. Let me explain. When an emergency department is overcrowded and people are to be admitted to a ward and there's no bed on the ward, the way that they create space is to cancel an elective surgery that was due to happen to make space on that ward for that patient in the ED department. And the knock-on effect of that is, as we hear now, 50,000 people had their operations cancelled in the first 3 months of this year. And it's just a symptom of many others. I mean, you hear of other issues within the ICUs of people waiting for almost 24 hours to get a bed on a ward coming out of ICU. And that blocks a bed in ICU for somebody waiting to go in. But the reality is that 1 in 3 of people, that public patients on some waiting list or other, are on some waiting list or other versus practically zero in the private sector. That's not the experience. And we have to really address the issue. We had a wonderful weekend of applause and entertainment and great crack and fun and everything else. But for the stark reality of these patients where they're getting their operations cancelled, some of them almost on the day of the operation, they're on the gurney waiting to have it, to hear that it's cancelled. There's something terribly wrong that needs to be addressed.
Obviously, it is a system where A to B to C, it's not operating in the way we would like it. There's been huge population increase. That's something. There are so many posts that are not filled. Like from all departments, we're talking from doctors all the way through to psychologists, and the waiting lists are getting longer and longer and longer in this country. So what is it that we need to do to address this? Because we say time and time again, and we're not trying to dig at anyone within the health service, because we've all been to hospitals and we all know that they're overrun and doing as much as they can. So how do we make this better?
Well, there's a number of things, firstly. First of all, where there may be issues of work practices that need to change, that needs to be reformed. We do need more beds.
What sort of work practices? Do you think that with the fact that we're still using paper and it's not all gone digital?
Absolutely. Well, that is the main thing. At a conference last week in Maynooth, I was actually saying that we're banjaxed without an electronic patient record. And, we need to get that in as quickly as possible.
Why has that not come in?
Well, it's been certainly looked at and reviewed and studied and everything else. And, you know, again, last week in Maynooth, they actually have a working model. 15,000 Irish patients are actually getting access to an electronic patient record. And, you know, it could be scaled up, yet for some reason or other, it hasn't moved forward. But it's all part of it. If you can't measure things effectively, as you're saying, you know, A to B to C to D effectively, well, then it's very hard to actually put the interventions in. Now, there's a very important report due out very soon by the former Chief Justice Frank Clark into the death of Aoife Johnson. And he will be actually looking as part of his brief into the governance of how the system is actually managed, which is an area that is seldom looked at, and that is something that needs to be done. At the end of the day, you know, I was up very early this morning doing some figures for your viewers, that for outpatient appointments, this is the first time to see a consultant, there's 21% of children waiting more than 12 months versus 18% for adults. And for operations, there's 24% of children waiting more than 12 months to get their operation versus 10% for adults. Now, I'm not going to go into the minutiae here, but this issue of cancelling operations plays into these numbers.
Why is it affecting children more?
Don't know. It's a question for Children's Health Ireland that needs to be asked.
And certainly we have seen spina bifida has been at the top of a lot of people inside Nadal. It's getting scoliosis, a huge amount of, because it's changing children's lives, because it is all about timing. We do have, of course, the HSE have gotten, and we've asked them for a statement. They say all patients who present to our emergency departments will be seen and treated, with the sickest and most urgent patients being prioritised. We urge any patient requiring emergency hospital treatment not to delay and come to the ED. We also request to only use the services when it is urgent. Is there an issue with us, as I'm just playing devil's advocate here, with us using the emergency department as our primary care facility rather than going to a GP, because we know there's issues there as well? Are we slowing up
that's a good
system
question.
a bit?
It's a good question, but I think what we're actually looking at is where people are attending the ED department and there's a clinical decision for you to be admitted. So that's not an unnecessary visit. Right? And, you know, the issue about, you know, rescheduling people back in again, the point is this shouldn't happen. And it's really an issue, you know, while the Taoiseach had a bone to pick with Taylor Swift last week, you know, we've a bone to pick with him to try and get this issue resolved once and for all.
You're the director of Irish Patients Association. What does that mean? And what can you do to fix this?
Well, I think it's very important. At the very start of this, you asked your viewers, had they got experience? It's very important for people to speak out about that experience, the impact in their lives. You know, like some people to have organised someone to go into hospital for an operation, they may have had to take time off work, they may have had to arrange somebody to look after their children or whatever, and, you know, then suddenly to find out that the operation is cancelled, and you can't go back into the office and say, oh, I'm actually here when I'm supposed to be away on holidays or something like that. So it has a huge impact on the patient and on the family. So what I would suggest that they do is to speak up. On a personal level, I'm involved with the Emergency Department Task Force, which is the body to oversee how the activity happens in the emergency departments, and we meet too infrequently. You know, we've only had 4 meetings last year, and we should now be looking at this part of the summer, what's happening for this winter coming up. We
were speaking to the Irish Cancer Society just 2 weeks ago about the fact that so many cancer surgeries and critical surgeries have been put on the long finger, that people can't get in for their scans and radiology to, in fact, help them. So if this is something that affects you, we'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111. Steve McMahon, Director of the Irish Patients Association. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Stephen. Coming up next, we're keeping with healthcare. We're going to meet the oncologist turned novelist, Austin Duffy.
Back with you in just a minute in Ireland Day. Now, our next guest is an oncologist by day and he's an author by night.
Wow. Austin Duffy, author and director of research for Start Dublin at the Matter, joins us to discuss his latest book. Cross, good morning to you, Austin. We'll have to start off with the book. Yes. I think this is your fourth novel, but this one actually has a bit of fiction in it.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk to you about the oncology side of things, but talk to me about how you have the time to work in oncology but also write a book.
Yeah, well, I've been chipping away at the fiction for, I don't know, 17, 18 years now at this stage. And I just do it in the morning for like a short period of time which has gotten a bit shorter since kids came along and stuff like that, and moving back to Ireland where I've been a bit busier, but it waxes and wanes, but I do it every day, you know. At the moment, I just work on the Dart, is kind of the only time I get.
How relaxing.
It actually is kind of
lovely
relaxing. The Dart is, you know, is very silent, and I get on at Hoth, which is the beginning of the line, so I'm guaranteed a seat, and I have my laptop and my noise cancelling headphones.
For characters as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I changed their names. But no, it's just a routine, and if you do it, I don't have the amount of time that I'd probably like to have or that others have, but I actually think it's a bit of an advantage, you know, because you sort of dip in and out of it. You're very focused, and a few years later, you have a book.
You have a book, and you're treating cancer. It's fantastic. Well, people find time to do other things in all courses.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Cross? This is the 4th book.
Yeah, this is my 4th book. It's a little bit different. I've actually been working on it for years. You know, I came across a notebook from like 2012 with the first line written on it. You know, so I've sort of been chipping away at it. And at the time I started working on it, I was living in America. I didn't think I'd ever be coming back to Ireland. And I guess, you know, I just wanted to sort of hang out in the language and the geography. I'm from Dundalk, so I love the Northeast, you know, very underrated part of the world, you know, and part of the country. And so I guess I just wanted to sort of hang out in the language and and also the history of that time, obviously, because I came...
So this is set in a border town.
It's set in a fictional border town, albeit it's called Cross, so people will draw allusions, but it's a fictional border town, and it tells a bit of a fable, full of characters and situations that would be recognisable to anybody who grew up during that time period.
You speak a lot about ideologies, because there would have been huge ideology in border towns, particularly for you when you were growing up. You kind of talk about, though, and currently, certainly this is something we're seeing all around the world at the minute, following ideologies can sometimes lead people to do things that, you know, aren't so good. Why did you decide to get into that?
No, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's pretty much why the whole point of the book, at least as I see it anyway. It's kind of a fable built around that simple idea. Because I think if history has shown us anything, it doesn't really matter what the ideology is. It could be the most left-wing, the most right-wing. It could be religious, nationalistic. It could be anything. But as the minute humans as a group or a crowd or a community or a nation, whatever descriptor you want to put on it, start buying into an ideology and adhering to that and not seeing the sort of humans in front of them, then over a period of time especially, then it leads you to certain behaviours that are, you know, well, disastrous, you know. And you can see that on a small scale or in a school playground, or you can see it on a large scale.
You're talking about the extremes of society.
Right,
like
exactly.
regardless of what area, right or left, whatever you are.
Yeah.
And that perhaps as a group we're meant to be in the middle ground. But you bring this through in a Catholic Irish border town set in the 1990s.
Right.
So it's something we can all recognise.
Yeah, and it's kind of where I grew up, you know, and so it made sense for me to sort of deal with that topic. But it's not. But I'm certainly not saying that it's only republicanism that would lead to this type of behaviour. I mean, you could write the same book about, well, to keep it in the Irish context, you could set it within a loyalist community. You could set it in a commune.
Yep.
You know, you could set it in a right-wing, you know, environment. You could set it in a Christian national situation. It really doesn't matter, you know. But obviously, what was sort of particular to me was growing up was that whole. Just the physical surroundings, but also, you know, what was in the news. I mean, we used to get the northern local news, you know, and every day it would be, you know, some young person, whether it was Protestant, Catholic, whatever, getting or a police officer. It was just a drumbeat of tragedies, you know, day after day after day, and that was sort of the reality of that time period. And I have to say, I never, even though Dundalk had the reputation of being sort of a nationalist, you know.
Yeah.
But personally, I always think that's overstated, you know. Most people would have had, and certainly in my house or the houses of any of my friends, the only emotion that was expressed when one of these news stories came on was revulsion and tragedy and sadness.
And these are things as well that they're almost in the background that you don't even think about, but are in the subconscious as well.
Brand new book. It's called Cross. That's it, Dundalk time. We have to talk to you about it.
I have to, yeah, of course, what we just spoke about there as well.
Yes.
Listen, you are an oncologist, and we spoke about 50,000 cancelled appointments and procedures. A lot of them are in the area of cancer surgeries. Like on the ground, how difficult is it?
It's very difficult. I mean, I was just covering the wards there last week, and a huge volume of patients being admitted, you know, sick either as a result of their treatment or some other event or related event. And you go down to the emergency room and everyone's under so much pressure. You know, there are patients, you know, in trolleys, or, you know, and all of the staff are doing their best. The consultants are rounding multiple times a day. The nurses, everybody's really doing their best. But the problem really is, well, there's a few problems, and your previous speaker spoke on some things like electronic health record and various efficiencies that could certainly be improved. I totally agree with what he was saying. But also there's a major capacity issue. You know, I mean, you can introduce lots of different efficiencies. Folks like myself can, you know, be on site and make the decisions and even get the tests organised. And we're doing all of that. But I suppose at the end of the day, you know, if someone's not able to be discharged from hospital, even if they're over their acute illness, but they still have, you know, they're just not fit enough to go home, or there's an issue in the community. You know, they still need to be in. You can't just, you know, evict them from the hospital. You know what I mean? It's and so it all boils down to sort of a capacity issue at the end of the day, and that's just sort of creates this backlog.
That's it is overcrowded.
Yeah.
And we know that your three other books did kind of deal with the medical field, but this is something a little bit different.
A little bit different.
Your brand new one, Cross, by Austin Duffy. And Austin's book is one of many included in this month's What's the Story. It airs on Sunday, the 21st of July at 1 p.m. on Virgin Media 1, and again at 5 p.m. the same day on Virgin Media 3.
Yes, absolutely. And also I would like to say a bit of good news as well, that you are the director of START Research in the Mater Hospital, which is doing amazing work as well. So good on you for that.
We've had you in once now. We're going to be in all the time. Austin, come in this morning, will you? Have to mind writing on the dart.
Coming up next, Social Democrats leader Holly Cairns is going to join us for a chat about the future of her party.
I'll talk to you very shortly. You are very welcome back to Ireland AM.
Great to have you with us. Now, coming up very shortly, we're going to sit down with the Social Democrats leader, Holly Cairns, to talk all things politics, opinion polls and pregnancy.
The Skin Nerd's Jennifer Rock is here with us this morning. There was a report in the Examiner about SPF, the amount of people that are using some beds and how it's extremely high in Ireland. And we're going to talk a little bit about SPF hacks today, Jen.
Yeah, we absolutely are. We're going to talk about how do you apply SPF to little people when they won't sit still, or maybe you don't like the feeling of an SPF, perhaps it beads on the skin or it just feels too heavy. And then how do you top it up if you are a makeup wearer, or if, like myself, you have a parting and you're trying to make sure you keep your skin covered. So all of that and more.
Oh, good.
Very interesting, Jen. I think that'll be great. Now, when the sun
you were talking about the creamy
comes
one
out,
being too
creamy.
much.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
talk about that.
I'm trying to get it on the kids. Nightmare. Anyway, Alan's over in the kitchen and seafood is on the menu. He's delighted.
Yes, look at this. What do you think we're having? Lobster.
Right. Don't
Prawns.
think so, Al.
Prawns, there you go. Look at them.
I'm surprised, Alan.
You're losing them.
Lovely fresh
And they're
prawns.
still alive.
Were these
wriggling.
Are these wriggling? Where were they now? Fresh from where this morning?
Your local supermarket.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
it's
you were going
very-
to say taken from Holt or somewhere
Oh,
like
I was
that
in there this morning. Myself and the happy pair were inside in the nip, just completely foraging for wild prawns. Yeah, right. Look, this is a really accessible recipe for the home cook in the summertime. You know what I mean? You know me. It's a struggle for me to even get out of bed this hour in the morning to come on TV.
The
so.
vision of you and the happy pair, the three of us naked down in Dalkey somewhere.
and two vegans. There's a book in that.
Stop it now.
Can we talk about what's on the menu?
Yeah, so we're making lovely prawns.
Yeah, lovely prawns. We're going to toss them some beautiful spicy Italian sauces and andouille with some butter. Toss it all, or we're going to grill them off, toss them in that butter and andouille, and then serve it on some grilled sourdough.
Tommy is over there going, yes, that's breakfast sorted. Now, and Deric has made some four-legged friends in the Dublin Mountains this morning. How are you getting on, Deric?
Yeah, sounds very tasty in the kitchen, Al. Anyway, we're down here at the DSPCA in Rathfarnham and Dublin. Gillian Bird is with us. Good morning to you, Jill.
Good morning.
Jill, who have we got here behind us?
We have 3 of our rescue pigs. We do take a lot of different animals into the shelter each year, and these are 3, so 2 of them came in as rescued, and the other one somebody asked to take in to rehome.
I mean, you were telling me earlier on, these came in as micro pigs, so they were teeny tiny when they came in.
They were babies, absolutely, and a lot of people think just because they're small and they're babies, they're not going to get big. But this is the size these guys get to, and you can see they're pretty big and hefty. You're not going to, sit one of those on your lap.
Yeah, and you've got other animals here as well, bigger ones. What have you got?
We do. We've got horses, we've got donkeys, we've got a lot of goats, we've ducks, we've chickens, we've a lot of different animals here. From time to time we're looking for homes for all of those. So they're in addition to the regular animals we have.
All right, we're going to be catching up with Jill and all the crew here a little bit later on this morning. But for the purpose of this morning, guys, we're going to christen them Tommy, Muireann and Alan. What do you think of that?
I'll take it.
Thanks very much, Deric.
Yeah.
Which one's which?
Time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times, the headline there. Aircraft and crews leased by Aer Lingus. Aer Lingus is leasing aircraft and crews from other operations to aid in combating industrial action by pilots as Labour court talks to resolve the long-running pay row between the pair continues.
Taoiseach is warned we may be building too many houses. Housing demand may be significantly below the 50,000 homes a year Taoiseach Simon Harris promised to deliver, potentially setting the country on course for an oversupply problem that echoes of Celtic Tiger crash. That's the front of the Irish Independent.
The Examiner leads with 40% used sunbeds despite knowing skin risk. Cork-based doctors and researchers have found that almost half the population have used sunbeds and that many who sunbathe believe it's worth getting slightly sunburned to get a tan.
My nights out now end in tears over what he did to me. A young woman who was raped by a Dublin taxi driver said she was told getting a taxi was the safest option after a night out, but instead it turned out to be her worst nightmare. That's the top story of the Herald.
The Sun goes with Border Fox joins ranks of the homeless. Notorious former terror boss Desi Border Fox O'Hare, the 69-year-old who was suspected of involvement in 30 murders, is holed up in a homeless shelter after walking free from prison last week.
The Star goes with Natasha's joy as Crotty's sentence appealed. Assault victim Natasha O'Brien has welcomed a bid to appeal her attacker Cathal Crotty's suspended sentence, has promised to keep up her campaign.
The Daily Mail leads with Natasha, the right thing is being done with Crotty case appeal. Natasha O'Brien has said the right thing is being done after the Director of Public Prosecutions ordered an appeal of the suspended sentence her attacker received.
OK, there we have it. Now, a lot of texts coming in on a number of different issues, but particularly that overcrowding issue in the hospitals, Alan, we suppose there's 50, in the first 3 months of the year, 50,000 appointments were cancelled.
It's incredible, and we're getting lots of texts in, and really sad texts. Pauline said, my son had a brain tumour removed 18 months ago. He was told he would be having a plate fitted 3 months later. It is now 18 months on and still no sign of having it done. So you go through the whole trauma of a brain tumour being removed, then saying your plate will be fitted in 3 months. That's obviously maybe a bit of time to recover before they need to put it in. And 18 months later, still waiting on it.
Yeah, but you'd be afraid, like, of going outside.
I know.
That something could happen.
Totally.
A message here, a friend who was in his operation gown and was told twice his operation was cancelled due to no bed. He works for himself. He's had to cancel weeks of work in preparation for this operation. So it's there waiting in the hospital, ready to go, and then it's cancelled.
And then being told, you're in the bed, you have the gown on, sorry, the operation's cancelled. My wife is 70 and is over 4 years waiting on day surgery. That is just absolutely scandalous that a lady in her 70s is waiting on for 4 years for day surgery.
Another one waiting for reconstruction surgery over a year, still no appointment, had a pre-op assessment last July. Listen, whenever you're thinking 50,000, I couldn't believe that number just for 3 months. But we were spoken to an oncologist a few minutes ago. He talked about just the capacity in there. They're trying to do everything that they can. There's so many areas that are wrong with it, but get in touch with your stories. 0896 111 111. We'd love to try and read out as many as we can. Now, after the break, she is the youngest party leader in the Dáil.
Social Democrats leader Holly Cairns is going to be joining us after the break.
Good morning. You're very welcome back. Now, our next guest became Ireland's youngest political party leader when she took charge of the Social Democrats last year at just 33 years of age.
And recently revealed another first for the Irish political scene, as this person is the first party leader to become pregnant. Here to tell us more is the leader of the Social Democrats, Holly Cairns. Good morning. How are you?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Huge
delighted.
congrats. You're blowing minds all over the place. A woman, 33 and pregnant and a politician. So much going on. How are you feeling? It is like it's a lot being pregnant. You're going through a lot of changes. How are you doing?
Yeah, it does feel so different, I suppose, to not being pregnant. But for the most part, we're just really excited. And yeah, can't wait. Hopeful.
Yourself, Barry, so you're 19 weeks, is that around
Yes,
right?
we're halfway there.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult to come out and express, party leader in politics, a lot going on, and then behind the scenes you have a huge amount going on as well. Were you nervous about putting it out there?
I was, actually, and for a couple of reasons, I suppose. For one, being the first kind of party leader to do it, and look, somebody has to be the first one, but nobody really wants to be the first one, I suppose.
Why?
I think because the system is not really set up for it. Like that, when it's a first, there's no template that you can work off of, particularly now because I'm, potentially due around, we don't know when the election will be, but it could be around then. So there's all of these kind of unknowns, and trying to plan for that when there is no template, there is no provision for maternity leave for TDs if they finally have brought it at a local authority level, which is really, really welcome. But yeah, because of that, I suppose I was kind of nervous about doing it and, figuring out the best way to do that and all that goes with it. But for the most part, excited. And yeah, I suppose the other part of it that was kind of maybe made me feel apprehensive or vulnerable about doing it is we had, tried for a long time, and obviously we tried to do it, in our naivety, we're like, we'll have, the baby and they'll be kind of 1 year old by the time there's an election.
Yeah.
And that didn't really work out for us. So part of me really wanted to explain, to my constituents in Cork South West, for one, but also to the party, why it's kind of happening at this time, that it's not that it's kind of a disregard for the importance of the election or anything, but like a lot of couples, we learned the hard way that it's just not that easy to kind of plan.
But you and Barry did go through this, you've had miscarriages, and that's something that you did behind closed doors, and it's a private thing, but you're also a very public person that in your job. So how was that?
Yeah, I think it's probably difficult in a lot of jobs, and one of the things that I learned, going through it both times, is that so many women do.
Yeah.
And we don't really hear that much about it. And I guess we know we kind of have a history of secrecy and shame around women and pregnancy, and particularly in Ireland. I think it's maybe a bit more acute. But I did find it a strange thing that, at the time when we were going through it, you kind of almost think, God, this mustn't happen to very many people, or you don't really know. And I remember thinking, it was so nice. I'd heard people like Sheila Shoga talking about it before. And it's nice kind of to hear that you're not the only one and that it does happen to people. But because there is that kind of secrecy around it, I think there's also a little bit of a drought of information. You don't really know what to expect. You're not even sure, do you go to the GP? Do you, all of those things. So I just kind of think it's important that we stop being so kind of secretive about it, because I don't know what the insinuation of that is, that maybe there's some kind of shame attached to it or something. Yeah. And I certainly don't feel that.
No.
I'm sure when you open up about something like that, you actually realise the amount of other people who've gone through similar situations who feel comfortable to be able to do that as well. A lot of women as well have to take annual leave or sick pay to try and deal with this. And I know Ivana Bacik from Labour is trying to bring in the reproductive health-related leave, where that women can take proper time off work to try and get over this, because at the moment you have to be beyond 24 weeks.
Yeah.
Is it something, as leader of Social Democrats, that you would be campaigning for as well?
Oh, completely. Look, yeah, very, very much so. And
it's not something that should seem so obvious that should be brought through.
I think there's so many things in that vein that should be so obvious. And I think it's, like that maternity leave for TDs, provisions for leave around miscarriage. And to be honest, the list of women's issues that go unaddressed from a policy perspective are ones I could list out all day, be it, HRT for people going through menopause, be it provision for childcare, proper pay for people who are working in childcare. Like, all of these things do go unnoticed. And I think maybe, like, to a certain extent, a situation like this epitomises it, because it's about representation, and that's why we elect people to represent us. And when we have so few women in politics, the fact that this is the first time a party leader has done this is 2024, and we're even having this conversation, I think says a lot. So I think, representation is key, and the fact that 50% of the population are kind of underrepresented says quite a lot.
Isn't it fantastic, though? Because you said you were nervous about being the first person to do that, but as you say, somebody does have to be the first person. So in being that person, there's responsibility, but hopefully you can make these changes. It can be something that you can lead from.
Yeah, it is really important that we see. I think there's an element of you need to see it to be it as well. And like, we don't see enough women in politics, and then enough, women having children. And I think the Minister for Justice having 2 children during this term was she was kind of leading the way in that respect, and taking maternity leave and all of that stuff. But we've so much more to do. And like, of course, when I talk about the need for more women in politics, like, that goes for so many other things, like the provision of disability services in this country is such a disgrace. And you can see the absence of representation of disabled people in the Dáil, the Seanad, and our local authorities,
Because if you're not there, it's not being brought up. There's 23% of our current Dáil are women.
Yeah.
So if there's no one at the upper echelons talking about disabled services, there's no one there to represent them. You're right, representation matters so much. So what is impeding people from getting in, do you think, and enticing people into politics? Because I certainly know that an awful lot of people behind the scenes are women, but not being the ones that are standing up there and asking for the vote.
I think a lot of it is that it always has been men. So, like, even, that kind of classic example, if you show somebody a picture of a man and a woman, like, which one's a nurse and which one's a guard, the kind of presumption that a lot of people have, and so when you always see it being men in the role, I think it takes a while for that to change from an institutional perspective. And then ultimately, when, all of the TDs are returned after the election, you see it made up in terms of the parties. And a lot of the time it is like the older parties seem to struggle to bring more women into politics, and that's just the reality. And I think maybe, the way organisations can be institutionally, it's difficult there's an institutional aversion to change often. And it does seem to be the case, like in the Social Democrats, we have more female TDs. That just has happened. And it's about...
Why are you saying that? Are you saying that older parties and more established parties haven't been trying to recruit women in the proper way, that ye have gone out there and actually talked to an audience in a different way?
I think that they're trying. I think there's an attempt there, but it has to be a meaningful one, because what you'll often see is they'll stand women, put them on the ticket to meet the gender quota, but they're not actually aiming to get them elected. They put them in as sweeper candidates for the other ones, and that's not a real attempt to bring women into politics. That's just an aim to meet your gender quota, and I think it is a really, really big issue. Like, for example, to give one example, in all of Cork City and County, it's the biggest county in the country, I'm the only female TD or senator. So there's actually currently 6 times more Michaels than women representing Cork, So the situation is pretty bad. And then when you consider the other kind of barriers like this, that there is no kind of provision for maternity leave, that there isn't, even loads of professions around, other kind of women's health issues. So I think we have a really long way to go.
Do you think the abuse is a huge part of this, that the social media messages that a lot of women get, maybe compared to... Listen, I know guys get bad messages too, but it seems to be different towards women. Do you think that puts a lot of women off politics that might be interested in it, but actually think, I could never give that a go?
I think it must have an impact to a certain extent, but it's a relatively new thing in political life, so it's certainly not the reason that we haven't had more women up until now.
You had to close your office, didn't you? Your constituency office over this.
Yeah, and it's really important to highlight that it is kind of an issue in politics, but I have to say, for the vast majority of the work that we do, it's really rewarding. It's a huge honour. It's really interesting. We desperately need more women, and despite the things that, I've had to do and I've experienced, I would recommend it.
So it is worth it?
Oh, it is. And I think that we hear a lot about the really bad stuff and not maybe enough about the good stuff to bring more women in. And I think one of the things we know as well is that women do often have to be asked more than once that men are kind of more likely to put themselves forward, and for whatever kind of cultural or societal reasons that I'm not really sure. But it's a matter of kind of, I would say to any women watching who might be interested in getting involved in politics, to like ask yourself, then ask yourself again, and then ask yourself again, because that's often what it takes, I think, for women to really consider them putting themselves forward. And look, we really do need more women in politics.
And I'm sure you're going to get an awful lot of the time, but who will be minding the baby, as though Barry didn't have anything to do with this. But anyway, that's one thing. Now, listen, during all this time, you were out for the local and European elections. There was no candidate free at the European elections, but you did great in the local elections. Like, you've got more representatives. You've got 35 representatives now. You're doubling that all the time. You were pregnant at the time, so you were out there doing your thing. Is this a huge driving force for you now going through? Because, as you said, we don't know when the general election is, but we're all thinking October, November. Is this momentum behind you?
Yeah, like we're so thrilled with our local election results, and like that to almost double our councillors. We're the second largest party in Dublin City Council now. We quadrupled in Cork, doubled in Limerick and in Galway. So it's a really exciting time for the party. And I think what we're seeing is the amazing thing about the Irish electorate is you just never know, like the sea change in the results in the last couple of weeks or whatever. But what we really got from people on the doors, the people who wanted to support us and vote for our candidates, were people who they want change, but they want a kind of change that they can trust. And I think people are really starting to ask themselves about what type of change that they want now.
What type of change would you bring?
Well, basically, we're a left of centre party, so we believe in social democracy, and that's a stronger provision of public services. So up until now, understandably, because of our very unique history, we've had a choice between two very similar kind of parties from a policy position perspective. So they're both kind of right of centre, leaving a lot of the kind of public services up to the private market. We believe there should be more state intervention in, for example, childcare.
Would you agree with joining the other two parties then, potentially, if they would have different ideologies than yourselves?
Going in as a coalition partner, would that be something that you'll be considering?
We'll be talking to every party for sure, but our aim, objective and reason for existence is because we want to change an approach. So how big our mandate is to have an impact on the makeup of the government is the key thing for us. Because, to give an example, because we touched on it earlier, the provision of childcare. In our alternative budget, we had a huge amount of money from the government surplus put aside to actually buy up existing childcare facilities to eventually work towards making it a state provision. Because whilst it's up to the private market, they don't get the support from the state that they need to be able to provide it at an affordable rate. Lots of people literally can't access childcare. So we believe the state should intervene in that situation more and make a better provision for it. Same with healthcare.
We have seen things happen to smaller parties when they've gone in as coalition partners. Like Labour, like a lot of them get the blame, like the Greens right now, Labour previously. We are a country who likes a big coalition, a rainbow coalition if it is. If you go in a situation like this, do you worry about what it would do to your party? That you would be blamed for things that might be happening at a bigger scale because it's easier to blame the small guy?
I think the true test of any smaller and left-wing party, in particular Irish politics, is what you do with power when you get close to it. And I think it's about those fundamental positions and things that we disagree with would be, you know, the privatisation of public services, the need for the acceleration of sláinte care for an equal access to healthcare system in this country. So I think it's about being clear with your party membership when it comes to that decision, and it's ultimately up to the party membership what you can get in that programme for government. Because I think the most important commodity in politics is trust, and that's the thing that's scarce and that has been broken. And making promises that you fundamentally can't keep going into government is a mistake we've seen time and time again. So it's about being completely honest about what you can achieve and getting the maximum mandate to achieve as much as you can.
Absolutely, and I think trust is exactly what a lot of the people who are going to be voting are looking for as well. Listen, Holly Cairns, leader of the Social Democrats, congratulations to yourself and Barry. Really exciting news. Hopefully it's an exciting couple of months ahead for you.
Get on.
Gun Simon, can you please put the date of the election?
March would be much handier.
It'd be all right, so much handier. Welcome back. Now, while many a clever skincare hack has been discovered on TikTok, or has it, there have been some that definitely should not be entertained.
And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. When it comes to SPF, the skin nerd Jennifer Rock is here to dispel the myths that are out there. Good morning to you, Jennifer.
Good morning.
And we're going to start with we were looking at this in the Irish Examiner this morning. 40% of people who are surveyed use sunbeds despite knowing the skin risks. And why? Because tan skin still seen as a sign of beauty, and even though they knew it was damaging their skin.
I think it's terrifying. What was it, like 1,043 people were surveyed over a period of time. And as you said, it's just the sunbed scenario is still a scary one. Was it 10.6%?
10.6%
yeah, exactly.
had used the sunbed
in the last year alone.
8 sessions each.
I think the reality is that I always say fake it, never make it when it comes to a tan. Look, we've kind of grown up, it's societally accepted that, you know, a tan is deemed to be beautiful, but doing it in a way in which that you're causing harm to yourself, it's scary. And I think when you read people saying that it's worth getting slightly burnt with the view to getting a tan, there's just still work to be done across all parties, both the, you know, the educational side on social media, to brands, to the consumers. We all have responsibility to know, because skin cancer is the most, I suppose, common cancer in Ireland. And I think we don't have the sun like we do perhaps on mainland Europe. We forgive ourselves for not being careful, but it's just not the case.
But it's UV, like that's it.
It's
UV is
UV
getting
that comes
through.
comes through clouds. We get it here every day.
Windows, you're sitting you know, at a computer every day, you're sitting near a window. So just to be aware that, you know, it is something to be savvy about. It's not skincare, it's more the health side of it.
And it is all skin types, regardless of how melanated you are. Like, that's what it is. It's all there. Okay.
Yes.
So a big thing is going on at the minute. The conspiracy world.
My God.
I feel like I'm always giving out about the platform. Like, it's an amazing platform.
It's an amazing platform. But there's a lot of stuff. People just putting up stuff and people following.
People are making their own sunscreen. So this is Nara Smith, I think, a TikToker that we have. We'll have a video of her making her own sunscreen.
Now, some think she's a parody account because this woman is just what would be portrayed as
Blue and Nara.
So this is a beautiful couple, very interesting content. But what they're essentially making here is coconut oil, beeswax, shea butter, cocoa and jojoba, which is fine as a moisturiser. What they then go on to do is explain how they put in zinc oxide, which is a really common ingredient. It's a mineral UV filter. It's found in a lot of SPF.
So is this what is found in your SPF?
Exactly. That's what they're claiming is their SPF.
So what is it called? Zinc oxide?
So it's called zinc oxide.
All right.
Usually zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, they're the two most common mineral UV filters available out there. And they're brilliant for the skin. The however part is, and this is where I suppose my qualm with TikTok and many different social media platforms at times can be, is that it's not regulated. So they're telling millions of people how to make a home SPF. Whereas, as a right to go through, when you create an SPF, you ultimately have to go through rigorous testing to ensure that it's, it's safe, that it's actually evenly distributed. When you make an SPF, you usually put an ingredient in it called a polymer, which means that when you put your SPF on, it'll easily glide onto the skin, but it also means that it's stable and that there's enough in it. So when you're putting an SPF here and you're applying it all over a larger area, every single part that you're applying has that correct level of that zinc oxide. And what you're doing at home, you're just not able to distribute it evenly and put it through that test. And also, is it surviving in heat? There's a lot that goes into
the containers matter as well.
Hugely, componentry.
Yeah, the component,
Yeah, how it interacts and is it stable in the heat is one of the biggest tests an SPF goes through. So all I'd say is when you're getting an SPF in the EU and you're purchasing it, know that it's safe for your skin, know that it is protecting your skin. That's not to say you don't go out and about and enjoy, you still want your vitamin D synthesis, but I think there's a lot of scaremongering around SPF at the moment and it's not needed.
So some tips and tricks. So always put your factor. Now you are one of these people, the factor 50. Isn't it the factor 50?
Yeah, I do. Look, do you know what? Irish Cancer Society will always stipulate SPF 30 and above. I always go with the 50 because we're supposed to apply quite a lot and often at times we don't apply as much as you should. So just to clarify what should is, if you're applying it to your face, it's 2 finger lengths amount, meaning that if I pick up my first product, for example, and I put it along my finger, this is how much SPF I'm supposed to have in order for my collarbone up to my forehead to be fully covered.
Oh my God, now I would have thought that's way too much.
Can you see that there?
How much you're meant to be putting on.
That's how much you're supposed to be putting on in order for you to get that full protection that the bottle says.
Is that just for your face?
That's just for the face. Actually, should be a little bit more than that as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's just for your... Up.
This is essentially
from where then up?
Yeah, collarbone up is what this is for.
Up.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously everyone's slightly different in size and so on.
Like makeup.
So moving on to the mineral side of life. So a question that comes into me an awful lot. People say, really honestly, Jennifer, I want to apply SPF, but I get spots, so I just won't do it. So that's where back to that ingredient, zinc oxide, is a brilliant ingredient, as is another ingredient called titanium dioxide. Basically, they're what's called mineral filters, and they're less likely to cause spots, irritation, sensitivity. So they're a mineral SPF, and that's what this one is. So if you guys feel it, like, you definitely will love this.
I love this because I love a bit of glow, do you know, because I'm so pale.
It just gives a bit of a
when I grow, it's just a little bit of hue, so that I don't look a week dead.
I'll tell you why I love it. I'll tell you why I love it.
We see each other first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa.
Whoa, it's like, whoa.
When you're talking about brands that don't do, or product people that are doing their own DIY version, this is the entire opposite. This is the brand HelioCare that has UVA, UVB, infrared. It has DNA complex protection in it with all the ingredients in it. It's one of the best SPFs that you can get. So not doing it at home.
Tommy mentioned this earlier on. How do we get sunscreen on kids?
Okay, so there's lots of TikTok trends at the moment, which I do love, right?
Yep.
This is great. So again, getting an SPF, getting your beauty blender or any kind of sponge that you want, and literally just applying it back over your, like if it's a little person, just putting it on all over their face. A little person. Or if it's to yourself, I swear by this tip, if I don't have a spray to hand or a stick to hand, I just put it on all over my face. So again, another brand, Ella and Joe.
What's wrong with your hands?
You can do, but you know what? The benefit of having this is that it's just a little bit more comfortable and you really stipple it into the skin. If you're a makeup wearer and you're applying your product on with the hand, it can look a little bit
So the kids might just enjoy this a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a bit more fun. Or what I often do is you can get a slightly larger brush than what I'm showing here, but your foundation brush or like a kabuki brush, and just dap it in. So you're getting all that full benefit into the skin.
So doing that for kids.
Yeah, and like ingredients with antioxidants in it, you've got your SPF in it. Really, whether it's the anti-aging side or not, it's about reapplying. This is clever. This, again, I've showed Elle and Joe so many times. I think people think I have shares in the brand. But this is their invisible SPF mist. It's really affordable, non-greasy, non-sticky. I have tried so many on the market, and I honestly won't use them if my hair looks like I've come out of a shower
just
from
for
it.
face?
Face and body. But some of them really genuinely do.
I love a
So putting it on all over, really hydrating, non-sticky. You can get into the pool immediately. You can put your clothes on immediately.
Lovely.
You're staying around.
And there's a stick as well.
Yeah,
this one
that's
here.
your
We'll talk
Bahamas
about them
skin.
in Bahamas. We'll talk about them in a minute because you're going to stay.
I'm
9:20.
stay.
Any questions for Jennifer? Not just on SPF. You are going to be here. 0896 111 111, and we'll make sure to get you some answers on skincare.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Looking forward to that. Now, Tommy, you're in the kitchen. What's on the menu?
Thanks very much. Look at these little fellas. Yes, we've got spicy grilled prawns for breakfast. Chef Jack O'Keefe is making it, so you know it's going to be delicious.
Of course it is.
With the andouille sausage as well. That's coming up next. All set.
We're going into surgery here.
Looks like it. Watch out, Alan. We've a fish dish that's sure to be delish.
Jack O'Keefe is joining us. Jack, I know you're making buttered prawns, but why are we wearing gloves?
It's like to get my hands dirty. Do you know? Well, not get your hands dirty,
Why
your
we?
hands.
Why have we got gloves?
I don't know. I just...
I said, OK, put on gloves.
There's so much pressure this hour of the morning. Right?
OK,
Prawns.
what are we having? So prawns.
They're so delicious. Everyone at home will be very shellfish.
Nice.
Well, I'm shellfish of me. That didn't work out, did it?
No, it didn't.
Anyway,
That went down like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
Just cook.
prawns tossed in an andouille butter. It's only absolute class, right?
I saw this on the menu yesterday now, and this is my
Andouille sausage. It's been a revolution in the last 5 or 6 years here in this country.
Now
We
tell
love
people
it.
what
It's everything.
andouille is in case they don't
So
know.
it's a spreadable, spicy Italian salami. Right, it's already cured, so you can actually eat it like that on toast, just spread onto your toast. It's absolutely delicious.
Would you use it instead of putting a knob of butter in?
I'm going to use it with the butter.
Oh,
it's me, come on now. Like, more butter, more better, right? So take that andouille, break it up, and you cook it the same way as chorizo. You know, cold pan, and then once you put it in, then turn on the pan. And what'll happen is all that delicious fat will come out of it, called rendering.
So why are you putting that into the pot and the prawns are going to go into the pan?
Because I'm going to toss this like a dressing.
Ah,
Now, if I put the andouille on the prawns now and then grill them, it'll burn and it'll get kind of bitter. So I like to keep that flavour of the andouille and then toss it in after.
Sorry, so you put that in a cold pan and then turn the heat up?
Yeah, and as you can see, look, the pan's completely dry. And you'll see here, literally, in the time of the segment, there'll be loads of fat and loveliness inside there, right?
OK.
Now, get a griddle pan. You can do this in the barbecue as well, and get it scalding hot, nice and high, so hot that it's almost setting off your fire alarms at home. No oil or anything inside it, and then you have your lovely prawns, right? You can use tiger prawns, king prawns, langoustines, whatever.
Okay.
Make sure they have the shell on them, because there's tons and tons of flavour in the shell.
Okay.
And we're just going to butterfly it with the scissors by running the scissors up through the tail.
Oh, you're keeping the shell on?
Keeping the shell on.
Why?
With these king prawns, the shell's actually edible. It's quite crunchy, and when it cooks, it just adds texture. Or you can just pick the meat out. With bigger prawns, you just pull it out as if it's a lobster. Open it out, right? And once you have it open, I just rinse that under cold running water just to remove all of
normally
the
it's like the
gnarly
poo
stuff.
and the guts
Yeah,
and stuff.
you
and it just
need
rinses
to
away
take
then.
that tail out, don't you?
Exactly.
Because
see
that's
these
where
ones.
people get very ill from prawns.
So I have it removed because it's up along here, and you just pull it out, and that's it. All right? And just rinse them under cold running water, and that's it. Just dry them off. Okay. Into a bowl. You can see now I have my gloves on because I'm doing a lot of handling of. And if anyone at home has a shellfish allergy, just stay miles away.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough.
Toss them in salt. No need. You can put a little bit of olive oil in if you wanted. Just a little drizzle.
Oh, in with the prawns.
In with the prawns. Bit of black pepper as well if you wanted.
Is it hard to get fresh prawns? Or
No, I got these in one of the more common supermarkets around Ireland.
Grand fresh.
In the,
just
no,
come in
in
a
the freezer
packet.
section.
Oh, in the freezer.
They're absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I find them always in the freezer section. So you just buy them frozen and then just defrost them.
Exactly, just defrost them overnight in the fridge. They're absolutely perfect in the next day.
And how long? So that's on a very hot pan.
Very hot pan.
How long do you stick it on for?
Oh, 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
And because they're butterflied.
They will turn the pink that we know a prawn should look like.
Like if the camera zooms in, you can actually see already that the tips are already starting to go pink on the tails as they cook fully through.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I can see that already there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now look at the endua. Look at the oil that's starting to come out of it already. That's delicious.
Yeah.
Those lovely healthy fats.
Somewhat healthy.
And then I just use a heat-proof spatula to smash down. Or at home cooking, just use a wooden spoon. That just breaks it up then. Once you're at that stage, you can take it off the heat, pop in an absolute heap load of chopped garlic. That's about three cloves. Prawns, garlic, and anything that's kind of smoky goes so well with prawns.
Yeah.
Like, think of your holidays
You always
in the
see
Mediterranean
garlic
or in
prawns,
Spain.
don't you? Yeah. And they go in the little ramekin dishes.
I used to love
Prawns
all
pil
over
pil.
it.
It's this, and at the very end you just put raw garlic and some lemon juice in, a bit of olive oil, toss it, and that's pil pil.
Okay. So this is what you're doing, except adding Nduja.
Yeah, I'm
sausage.
making an Italian version of it.
Okay.
Right. Loads of butter in on top.
Nduja sausage isn't Italian, is it?
It is,
not
yeah. It's
Spanish.
From the south. From the south in Calabria.
Could you get them in supermarkets, or do you need to go to the sort
Yeah,
of...
like I got this in the supermarket. Like the supermarket I went into had 2 different versions.
Yeah,
one in the jar
loads
and one in
Nduja,
the sausage form.
Yeah. Oh, look at that, all
Right.
Oh, that
mixing
looks
up gorgeous
delicious.
now, isn't it?
And after
Wow.
halfway through, just toss them around. And look at the colour of them already.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's a prawn.
Now it looks like
Now
something
it
you're
looks like
used
a
to.
And how would you know? Because obviously you don't want to be eating these when they're a little bit raw. So how
Once
do
they're
you know?
fully pink, and what they do is they become quite spongy, so just give them a touch as if you were cooking a steak.
Okay.
And once it's nice and bouncy, they're fully cooked.
Because you could probably overdo them as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, and you could literally bounce them off a wall and they'll come straight back at you.
Yeah.
Right? Once the butter melts, that's my andua butter done.
Are you going to pour that on top of the pan now?
No, I'm actually going to put the prawns straight into it, as if they're chicken wings.
What about the lemon? Does it go in as well?
So the lemon in is just at the very, very end, just to finish it off, along with the parsley. Right? So while they're finishing off, I just take my parsley. I've just picked the leaves off the stems because the stems can be quite bitter, and just really roughly chop the parsley because I like my herbs almost to be like a salad leaf.
Okay.
Right? Once they're fully pink,
Make sure they're fully pink now before we go on eating these.
into the hot butter.
You going to try these, Al? No. He's not a fan of prawns.
No,
Jack.
I used to be. I used to love, like when you talk about garlic prawns coming out, the little thing, all the garlic, and then you put the bread in. Oh,
So you
and
just
I
don't
ju-
like Jacks, or
I
what is
just
it?
got
Just doesn't like me, like
very-
lamb hearts last week.
No, but Jack, it was telling people why they should make sure they're clean. That I
100%.
didn't get with things weren't cleaned out, and I was so ill for about a month and nearly 3 months. Then just after it.
Look, I'd be like that fella on the radio. I had 60, 74, 75. With prawns, use
Come
your
on,
nose
let's
and
get
your
going
senses. Smell them. If they smell strong like ammonia, or actually, if any seafood product has a strong smell of fish off it, don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Yeah. Because
you know what?
I completely understand that. If you get a bad dose of food poisoning off anything,
Yeah, it's
Then-
just.
right?
I am
look
going to eat
delicious.
these. I
that.
wish I had took the heads off them though, because
No.
I can't eat
Suck
it with the
juice out. Bite straight into the head. Just bite straight into it and suck.
bite the head.
Bite straight in and
and
suck.
then you suck the prawn out.
Bite straight in. Go on, do it. Do it.
Bite the head.
Bite
the
in.
eyes.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, I'm not doing
Do it.
that. No.
Do it.
Go on.
I take that
There you
bit
go.
off.
Oh, no, go on, go in
you
now.
go.
Delicious.
Or still some bone on it.
Jack O'Keefe, thank you so much for that. Lots more still to come in the final hour. By the end. Skinner will be answering your questions and lots more. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Good morning, you're very welcome back to Ireland Down. Coming up, we've got everything from furry friends to skincare trends. Speaking of skincare, Maureen is with the Queen of Clear Complexions. Who wrote this? Jen, of course, that is you, of course, isn't it?
Jen, yeah, she's the Queen of Clear Complexions. And we're just talking about electrolytes. You know. Okay, we're answering people's questions. They're already starting to come in, are they?
So we have, if somebody is finding their skin is quite sweaty and they want something nice and light, should you tone or should you not tone? Do electrolytes have a role to play in skin? What do you do after you come home from your holidays when you're maybe a little bit blue, but your skin's blue too?
So lots of questions are coming in then.
Questions, yeah.
You still have time. 0896 111 111, and we are going to be talking about my electrolytes have become
her favourite.
My favourite thing. Now, from the Queen of Skincare, that was her, Tommy. Clear complexion.
Thank you, Tommy.
To stylist extraordinaire, Al? What? No, it's not Alan. It's who you're with, Alan.
It's electric lights to clear your hangover.
Electrolytes. No, no, to get me ready for the day.
Radiant, clear complexion.
You know.
When you know, you know. We're going through the summer standout trends that may have not caught your attention, Lorna. What are they?
They are things like rose print. So, we have floral prints every kind of spring, summer, they come around. But roses in particular, coming from the likes of Erdem, Alexander McQueen. So we've got some high street alternatives to those designer looks this morning, like this fabulous dress in Jessica from Pennies, which is a great one for any occasion you might have coming up over the summer. Really easy to put on, wrap dress, really flattering, but I'll have lots more to talk about later on.
Welcome back. Best of luck. Now, earlier on, we had Holly Cairns, the Social Democrat, the leader of the Social Democrats, in. And Holly is just going on 20 weeks pregnant. She's feeling great. But she was also talking about the 2 miscarriages that she has had in the past year. And Helen got in contact and said, I lost my baby at 9 weeks, and it was such a silent bereavement. I didn't find the hospital to be that sympathetic, and I don't think even my partner understood how much it impacted me. I definitely think there should be more guidance for couples, similar to antenatal classes for expecting mothers, because it happens to so many people, and I suppose you're just meant to not talk about it.
Well, that's what Holly said, that it's almost like a stigma around it, where actually it should be a bit more of an open conversation, and that there should be some leave given for work, so that people don't have to just take holiday pay or sick pay to try and to deal with it. Exactly, expected to just cope with this. So yeah, very interesting, and I hope you're doing okay now.
So sorry,
Helen. We're also getting some incredible messages coming through. We did a segment earlier on about the hospital overcrowding and how there were 50,000 appointments cancelled in Irish hospitals in the first 3 months of the year, and some of the messages
are literally just like mind-boggling. I mean,
see the frustration.
I found out on January 2nd that I had an aneurysm in my brain. I'm still waiting to be seen. I am so worried.
2nd of January.
So the 2nd of January confirmed an aneurysm, and you're still waiting to be seen. Like, just unbelievable.
A friend's had to go to Belfast for a hip operation as she's in absolute agony. Had to borrow 10 grand from the credit union. She's 78.
78 years of age.
And is able to just go up north and get the hip operation done, obviously privately.
Why didn't that happen here privately?
No, you would have thought that you could get in privately.
If you didn't have health insurance, it's a pre-existing condition.
There's waiting lists in private hospitals now too. Massive waiting lists there as well because of the demand.
I was in hospital last July and August due to a problem with my gallbladder. It ruptured. I ended up in the ICU for a few days. They attached a drain, and I was told that I would get an appointment to have the rest of it removed. I still have yet to receive any notice about the surgery.
So this is last July, so you're now approaching a year.
Yep.
I'm waiting 2 years to have a plate put in my head after my 3 surgeries. I was supposed to be admitted in March, and I was ready to go, and they cancelled the operation on the day.
That's the second message about people waiting to have a plate put in their head today.
Yeah, crazy. My husband got an appointment for an MRI in his shoulder for August.
You can only laugh at this.
An MRI for his shoulder for August, so he's getting the MRI in August. This is 9 years after his first appointment. I mean, that's insane.
The worst thing is...
and then they said, they sent him a letter asking you, do you still want to be on the list?
Because they assumed he'd go off and get it done privately and they wouldn't have to deal with it.
Surely you can get an MRI. That seems insane,
But you
doesn't
remember
it?
we were talking here to the Irish Cancer Society about about the amount of machines that aren't staffed, that
Oh,
they're
yeah, 'cause they
here,
can't get
but they
people
can't
to
get the
work them.
staff. So like 6 of them. So you would
But
have.
like, imagine.
I wonder, the
9
shoulders
years and
half
then send
hanging
a
on
letter.
at this stage.
Like
9 years.
That person, like you're sending this letter. Do you know
Wild.
what's so annoying? And I know this has happened to somebody that they sent a letter. That person had died, so the letter went to the wife.
Yeah.
Asking, do we want to continue with the hospital appointment?
Okay,
Thank you for sending your messages. I think this is just a pick of a few of them as well. I think we have a huge amount of messages come through on this. So very, very frustrating for a lot of
We
people out
can't
there.
solve any of those issues, but we can solve some other issues because Jennifer Rock, the skin nerd, is on hand to tackle your skin-related questions. Look at her acting over there. Look at her. That is
That's fabulous
Oscar-worthy
acting.
acting there.
We're
Fair
going to
play
be
to
chatting
her.
to Jen just after the short break.
It's her new ad.
That was, Talk to you in a minute. Welcome back now from dry dermas to multipurpose facial machines. We're aiming to answer your beauty woes.
Machines helping us, as always, is the skin nerd Jennifer Rock. Hiya, Jen.
Hello.
Great to have you back.
Hello.
We have a couple of messages coming through. One question: I am allergic to SPF. Have tried a number of different ones. Is there any new SPF for sensitive skin?
It is a tough one. Definitely our best to speak to your pharmacy, or if you are under the care of a dermatologist. There are a lot of people that are quite irritated by SPFs. We spoke earlier in the previous segment about the brand HelioCare and ingredients like titanium dioxide, zinc oxide. Basically, what you're looking for is a mineral SPF. So if there's anything wrong with chemical, but in this instance, your skin might be, you know, underneath the heat and the sweat and the whole lot, it can cause irritation.
Mineral SPF.
And patch test it. Definitely patch test them before you try them. Go into the pharmacy, try it on, you know, get a sample, use it for a few days. In heat is always the key activator, not just on a rainy day in Ireland. When you still need your SPF, but you mightn't find the irritation to be as much.
And before we were rolling this around at the end, people are wondering what it is. What's
This is your Bahamas Skin Glow Sun Stick. I generally think it's really clever because you can put it on, like, I literally will go, I'm going on my head on Thursday, I'm very excited. This will be coming with me. It's portable, it's ultra convenient. But the whole point of earlier segment was, how do you top up on the go? So literally, it can fit in your bum bag. Do you still call them bum bags? Take it out of your bra, I don't know, back pocket, whatever, and just literally pop it on along here, or over makeup, or anyone that's kind of thinning on top and just wants something that they can put on that isn't a cream or a lotion. So it's the Irish, it's Suzanne Jackson's brand. Really, really.
Is it mineral based? No, or is that?
No, this has, and I like a chemical, but for irritancy, yes, something to be conscious of. It
but that's
doesn't leave
handy for
any
the hairline.
Hairline all over,
Right.
top up, over the lips, because people always forget to put it over the lips,
Bald
the eyelids,
spot
and the
for
top of
men.
their ear.
There you go,
100%.
stick it on
It really
top.
is just very convenient. And over the hands, because you're washing your hands so much. So something that I think you could bring out and about with you.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so second question here. It's been so hot and humid lately, I can't find a moisturiser that won't sweat off. Any advice?
Is it a great complaint? Like, I'm definitely here for that complaint, for sure. So I wanted something really affordable as well, because I'm conscious that it is a busy time of the year. We're all, you know, potentially taking days away or things like that. So the first one you have there then is your Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Gel Moisturiser. Available obviously in pharmacies nationwide. It's clinically proven. Feel it there, Tommy, on the back of your hand. I promise you'll love it. It's an oil-free gel-like texture.
Ooh,
it's
wow.
really cooling. Pack full of hyaluronic, which we know we love. Isn't it really soothing and
Jelly,
cooling?
isn't it? Yeah.
So when we're talking about a moisturiser that gives moisture, this does, because the hyaluronic.
That's nice.
I know,
Yeah,
and it
that's
has
nice.
that quintessential Neutrogena sensation and scent. There's the aroma in it. There's amino acids, which helps with the barrier. There's also electrolytes
sweat
in it
off, though?
externally. It really doesn't,
Okay.
yeah, because it does actually generally adhere to the skin. So very easy to apply, beautiful cooling, even in the fridge. I mean, you don't need to put it in the fridge. How cold was that going on
that
there
was
now
lovely.
in a heated studio? But yeah, ultimately, hyaluronic acid, an amazing ingredient to retain moisture in our skin. So a really affordable one for someone that wants
Lovely.
to
Okay, when I was growing up, I always thought I had to use a toner, so I did. As an adult, do you still have to use a toner?
It's such a great question. So when I was growing up, it was cleanse, tone, moisturise. That was just it, right? Now it's more double cleanse, potentially a spritz, serum and SPF. Tommy, you look confused, but you're coming on the journey with me, right? So toning used to be traditionally that you used it to take your cleanser off. It was quite an alcohol-based product. So those days are kind of more...
Remember the ones where you burn your skin?
my
Like you
goodness.
burn your skin off.
But that's where the psychological element of skincare comes in, that
Yes.
you really want it to feel squeaky clean. Those days are no more. Now we're all about the barrier. So what you have here in front of you is kind of a 2024 version of what you could call a toner. I like to call it a spritz. So I've been calling it Spritz O'Clock for many a year, but it's your Dr. Hauschka facial toner. Spray it on the skin. It's really hydrating, beautifully lightweight. It does help after you've cleansed to refine your pores. It helps balance your moisture. That looks very therapeutic, Tommy. Oh, and give a little twirl to the camera, please. But do it to mirror.
No, I'm sorry. He's getting too into that there. He's just like...
Toning is great fun.
Someone's getting ready to do some sort of it. You'll be on an ad soon. Walking through
the mist.
So good.
But it is literally a mist of hydration. And Hauschka, as we know, is a brand that's all about, isn't it divine?
Oh my gosh.
So it's not just because it smells nice that I wanted to use it. It really does bring moisture to the skin. It's always really natural, really hydrating ingredients. Gives it dewiness. Has witch hazel, so it refines pores. So you can do it after cleansing, spritz, and then away you go. Or I would just literally have it in the glove compartment or out and about in my bag and throughout the day to really top it up. So beautiful.
Okay, now is the way forward.
We're going to move on to my favourite thing.
Yes, this is your part of the segment, Myrne.
So into this. I know it's really important to get electrolytes in when you've been sweating. I see it all over TikTok. But does it make a difference to the skin?
So
what are electrolytes?
I'm actually just going to be slightly cocky for a moment because I've been talking about electrolytes for such a long time and how they have such a massive impact on us. Obviously, I've decided to start doing bike row ski. Why does anyone do that in the middle of a 40 degrees heat?
Crazy.
But you are sweating like a lot when you leave. And so anyone that's in the gym that's doing cardio will definitely need something like this. So for this time of the year when you're abroad in heat or sweating, it's definitely important to get those minerals back into the body. But from a skin's perspective, there's lots of studies now coming out to say that if you think about it, because what electrolyte does, you can both take a little sample of one each. Don't squabble over which one because they both have two beautiful flavours.
Purple.
So are these are they vitamin C or what else is in them?
Exactly. So you're right. There's 13 ingredients in total. So you've got your magnesium, your vitamins, your electrolytes. So essentially it's your salt levels being put back into the body. It's got your vitamin B3, 12, 5. So it's 13 active ingredients in one. I generally find this, and my son is 20, so it's hard to get goodness into him always. Yeah. He is swearing by this, and he's going on his holidays on Sunday. I'm going on Thursday. There is lots of these in our house because they're all being packed into our suitcase. So really affordable, great for hydration, great for energy if you're feeling fatigued, and just getting goodness back in when you have sweated a lot, which if you're leaving this island and going to the heat is a pride.
They taste gorgeous.
Don't they? And a little bit of ice in that, I'm telling you, don't need a cocktail or a mocktail. That is just delicious.
I am all over the oars. I'm lashing them into me.
It does make a huge difference. Like, it really does hydrate the skin.
Hydration is good for you, isn't it?
Exactly. One a day is all you need and really affordable.
Gorgeous.
Okay, yeah.
So
now we're going to move on to more hydration. Another question.
Yeah,
any tips for that extra hydration boost when it comes to helping dry skin and bad pigmentation after being away?
I know, so we all think about the pre-holiday, but what about the post-holiday, right? Whether you're with the familia or you're with pals. So essentially, look, I generally am in complete love with this product.
I
use sheet masks so many times. So the tip then, Tommy, is to make sure you take the little netting off. And Miriam's going to show you. Here's my side. You can be like
there's netting on it.
So you don't need that.
This
can be used, but don't throw this away. Use this on your everywhere.
Good point.
It's very messy, isn't it?
Yeah. There's 30 ml of serum on it, and because it's in a biocellulose, meaning it's a biodegradable, you can put this into your food bin straight after.
This is your first face mask.
No. You look gorgeous. But it's so cooling.
God, it fits you.
And that's what but Miriam, you've hit the nail on the head.
How are you doing?
A lot of...
If Hannibal Lecter were Joey and Friends.
It actually penetrates in 20 times faster by being in that material. Now, ideally, the facialist in me wants to smooth that all out. But it doesn't really matter how it looks, it's how it feels. So there's antioxidants, hyaluronic, ceramides in it.
Isn't it?
Really cooling, like genuinely delightful.
So what does this do?
So this is, again, so the question was all about quick hydration, boost after the holiday when your skin's slightly fatigued. One of those, 20 minutes on, take it off. Your skin is honestly nearly like brand new in hydration levels. I will have this on the plane at 4 a.m. going on my hen. It just prepares your skin.
You wear it on the plane?
I'm going to wear it on the plane. With my glasses and my headphones, I'll be very attractive. But honestly,
I did that the last time on a plane because she told me to.
With your electrolytes. But honestly, using when you come home from holiday, especially when you pigment, because there's blueberry and pomegranate in it, so it's all about calming that pigment that we tend to get.
Delicious as well. Isn't that fantastic?
How long will I keep it on for?
20 minutes.
20 minutes, stay like that.
Grand.
So he's not moving. I keep seeing people on social media using facial machines that are supposedly multi-purpose. I haven't a clue about them, so I'm wondering if a multi-purpose one is better than one that focuses on just one area.
Great question. A lot of the times with modalities or machinery in, at-home facials, they're quite costly, so you really feel that you would love to try them before you get them. What I love about this brand, Geska, is that they brought out really affordable options. So this is their Sonic tonic, warm and cool mask, 9 in 1, meaning it has 9 different benefits. The first thing I'll note about it is look at the shape. So it means that you can get right up, because the kind of pointed edge of it, you can get right up underneath the eye, around the corner of the nose.
Is it vibrating or something?
Yeah, so this essentially, when you turn it on at the back, you press the on button, it has... You're really getting into this, Tommy. So you have your LED lights. It has lots of different colours. Your red for collagen synthesis, your yellow for, I suppose, more hydration, your blue for antibacterial. Then on the back as well, which you won't be able to see on the camera, but you essentially press a little cold button there.
Oh, lovely.
And it goes into cryo tool. So it's really
Does
cooling.
it really
promise to
work,
God,
though,
wait, I'm
Jen,
going to...
like-
But it's cooling. The whole point is to calm down irritation, inflammation, bronchopilaries, so a little bit of coldness. Feel that cold up there, like quite quickly. Have a little touch.
Oh.
So it has the cold, and then you can turn it over to the heat, and the heat allows your serum to penetrate in further. So how do you use it? You've cleansed your skin and you literally go nice outwards, really sweeping motion. So it is it's an instantaneous hit for the skin. So it helps with depuffing, it helps with the eye area in particular, which I like. It just helps with product penetration, and it's got massage and it has vibration in there as well. So it's really cooling and like, really calming for the skin. And it's only $59.95. Usually these are, you're talking a lot more, and you're not sacrificing on the technology by comparison to competitors. So for me, it's an all-rounder. And if you look up their social, they are liked by many a famous human. And they're not all ads, they're just genuine endorsements for the product, which I love
That's
to
what
see.
you like when it's not all ads.
you
Jennifer
have it.
Rock.
So Tommy with his
The
mask,
skin
me
nerd.
with my cooling.
If
She's
you
off
want to
the
spot her,
sun.
yeah, off in the
You'll
sun.
be able to spot her like that on the airplane. It is
Hard to
gorgeous.
spot with their earphones on and eye masks as well. Jen, thank you so much, and
Thank
best
you,
luck
guys.
on your head.
Thank
Have a
you.
great time. Now, still to come, can't take me serious with
No,
this.
go on,
can
keep
you?
on going.
Deric is making some four-legged friends at the DSPCA.
Now we're back to discuss fashion and some undiscovered summer trends.
Yes. Have you not discovered the dress or the outfit that you wanted all the time? Inspired by Spring-Summer 2020 catwalks, styles. Lorna Waitman here joins us now. So some of the things that we mightn't have seen, that there mightn't be so prevalent on the catwalk.
Exactly. Like if you think back to last summer, right, when Barbie dominated everywhere, and then you didn't really know what else, you know, that just kind of fell a little bit further down the pecking order. So this is kind of happening again this summer, where you have a couple of things. There might be fall into bigger categories of trend, but then you might have these just small elements, like, you know, we're going to talk about rose print.
Okay.
Where you
Well,
just might
let's have a
seen
look.
So we'll have
Yumiko's
a look
first.
Well, no, we'll have a look at what we're
yes.
inspired by.
Inspired
Now, these are it's
by.
loose interpretation. So our first look is Christian Dior catwalk.
So Christian Dior did this like longer lines. So if you have a look at that, when you have a longer style dress, you might be more inclined to put like a cropped jacket or a cropped cardigan or something that sits at your hips. So what this is doing is breaking all those rules and lengthening everything.
And proportionality. like
Exactly. Now you still kind of maintain proportion, but there's an element of kind of cool with this.
I
So-
prefer your look.
Thank you, Valen. Thanks, Mila. So do I. No offence to Dior or anything,
Yeah. No.
but it's about taking elements of it and making it a little bit more practical. So, for example, if you've got a blazer is the #1 thing I recommend in everybody's wardrobe, and it doesn't really matter on the colour, but it just really completes and finishes off a whole outfit if it's over a dress or anything. But you'll notice that this is just a slightly longer length. Now, Yumiko is quite tall as well, so if you're more petite in height, that's
It'll
going
be
to sit a
longer
little
on
bit
you, yeah.
longer on you as well. But you're talking about below the hips, almost around your bum, for the length of this kind of style blazer.
God bless it for the leggings. I don't know
Isn't it
what
great?
I'd do without it.
Exactly. For leggings and everything, it actually means you can kind of dress up your
Love
leggings.
it, yeah.
This dress is lovely. The
This dress is
unusual
beautiful.
ruching, is it slightly to the side?
Yeah, so it's just kind of caught in a little bit of a seam just to the side, which I love around tummy area. It is just really nice, and it makes also a light, soft fabric like satin or anything similar sit a little bit better on your body. But also it's really well positioned, so it's almost in line with the buttons of the blazer. So you can kind of see that kind of break in your body without taking away any proportion.
Okay.
Which is beautiful.
And
then
is this satin?
this is satin.
Will
Now,
this crease?
yes, I won't
Okay,
lie to you,
right.
right?
It's a bit like linen,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. It takes a lot more care.
Yeah.
And also, so for example, you need to iron it on a cool iron, you know, so you don't kind of damage the fabric. You need to just take a little bit of care.
Yeah, steam
and
it
keep
maybe.
Steam, exactly.
So we had the shoes there a second ago. We're looking at the earrings now.
So earrings, with this look, what you can do with earrings is complement the hardware of the blazer. And by hardware, I mean the buttons, any kind of detail that might be of a metallic, you know, like a metal of some kind. So you've got the gold and the gold, which kind of brings it all together. And if you don't really like, you know, the the lighter shade. This dress also comes in a beautiful shade of kind of olive green, kind of like Alan's jacket there as well.
Lovely.
So it's a beautiful look.
We're looking
really
at the
beautiful.
rose trend. We're inspired by Alexander McQueen.
Yeah, so if we have, when we
trend.
look at this, you think, gosh, it's a bigger pattern. So you can see on Alexander McQueen, you've kind of got, it's almost like the whole rose going down this look.
Yeah.
So we're just taking inspiration from that. And this dress is from Penneys, and I think it's just an absolute winner. And what I love about it is that the print is not too overwhelming, especially if you're not a fan of red, because it can be a little bit of a difficult colour to wear. But it's the style of this dress. It's a wrap style, but it also has like a little kind of frill, tiered effect. So it swoops up your body. So it means the detailing balances out the kind of over the statement of the print, if you want to say. And also what I love, it's got a very, very deep V on it. So if you wanted to wear a little vest or a camisole with a little bit of lace on it, you absolutely could as well. But it means that all of the ties on it, because the print is a bit bigger, they're all kind of camouflage. So you can't see the tie on it. It makes it look like a full dress, which is lovely. And then we've just got a little block heel as well. I think with a length like this, you need to just have maybe a slight lift in the shoe. So now you can absolutely go with flats. But it does create a little bit of proportion as well.
Lovely. I love this gold
Do
bag.
people stay away from the larger print?
I think we're just a little bit afraid of it because we think it actually just, you know, it can be a little bit overwhelming on your eyes, you know? But I think with something like this, you have a bit of balance. And especially with accessories like the little gold bag, you're kind of, you're breaking up the outfit. So the key is to look for little details that you can, like the sleeves and the tie.
Lovely.
And that makes the print a little bit more wearable.
Thank you, Jessica. Now, Miu Miu is inspiring this.
This is metallic. Now, this is one that's probably a little bit far out and not to everyone's taste. And I think when you look at something as extreme as Miu Miu, you think, oh my gosh, how is that wearable? You know, it's a bit foil looking. So we're kind of moving.
It's over a jumper.
It's a complicated. Do you know, it's very, it's very Miu Miu. So we're going to take it into Irish kind of style and for Irish weather. Isn't this stunning? So this is from the Rita Ora collection at Penneys. That has a bit of a festival vibe. It is from Penneys. So the dress and the cardigan. So knit and crochet is a great way to get metallic in for the summer because it's not too shimmery. You've got a little bit of weight in the fabric as well.
And I see the dress is lined.
It's not.
Oh,
we have that is underwear.
Oh,
yeah. So I was going to get to that. So because it's a little bit see-through, when you put the two knits on top of each other, it actually does give you a little bit of camouflage. But Kelly's actually wearing a little bodysuit underneath that.
Or you can get yourself a slip or whatever.
A slip, exactly. Just so you give yourself a little bit of coverage underneath it. But also for beachwear or festival wear, you'll see people wearing bikinis and swimsuits underneath this as well. But it makes metallic very elegant and very, very chic.
Very cool.
Also, you can wear the two separately as well. So with the shoes, we're going with all the gold. These are lovely little flat and they've kind of got a woven rattan effect to them. So they're not too plain and they complement the kind of crochet, woolen kind of effect of the dress as well.
And the cat eye earring?
Cat eye sunglasses, just for a bit of sassiness. And then the earrings as well. So the whole look, I think, is very chic. And especially on holidays, I think that will look absolutely stunning. And if you want to also, you know, mix and match all these pieces, you can. You know, when you've got statement earrings and a cardigan and a dress, you can wear them all separately as well.
That whole thing is under 100 quid.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it? Yeah, so I mean, there was your Miu Miu and there was your Penneys.
Like literally under 100 quid for everything.
Exactly.
Taking inspiration from Ms. Victoria Beckham for this one.
Yeah, so this is all really about smart casual.
Yeah,
so
tailoring.
Victoria Beckham has been incredibly focused on tailoring for the last couple of seasons and it sells very well for her. But I actually think it's punctuated how we style tailoring ourselves because she's really keen on making sure it's not too officey, so it looks formal, but then you've got this lovely subtle casual element that goes with it. So to make it look a bit more formal, you've got the blazer, which is in a slightly different tone to the tailoring underneath it. So you create a bit of context, and this is from On Trend. And then underneath it, you've got this lovely waistcoat, but Yumika's going to take off the jacket. It actually isn't as structured as a tailored waistcoat like you might think. It has a lovely softness to it. So there's no structure in it. It just falls straight down and still plays in that longer length like we had earlier on. And the matching trousers give it a lovely feel. So you don't have to wear a dressy shoe. You just make it smart with the shoe we have it with, or you can go with a runner or a
Just come as a
sandal.
two-piece?
No, you can buy them
buy them
separately.
separately.
Yeah, they're from On Trend, and it's a lovely colour in that won't get dirty. It's just that lovely, kind of very similar to what you're wearing today, Myrne, in terms of shades. But also the gold looks really well with it too. So it looks very smart, but there's so many options to casualise it.
I love the jacket with it. It's
Isn't
so
it gorgeous?
different.
Yeah, and I mean, you could wear that again, taking cues from Victoria, put a t-shirt underneath it, wear it open, wear it with jeans.
Yeah.
So it's really all about playing on the trend
It
and
is.
making it your
My
own.
Pinterest board is just Victoria Beckham. It's just, I love her. She's amazing. It's
She is
unbelievable.
fab.
She's how she puts clothes together. Lorna Waitman, thank you so much for showing
That
us
was
the
very-
underrepresented
Very
trends.
good. The underrepresented trend. Now you know.
Now you know. Up next, we're hopping over to Deric.
Yes, he's at the DSPCA learning all about homing rabbits and guinea pigs. We're back after this.
Now Deric is hanging with all creatures great and small.
And it looks like he's made some furry friends.
Deric, how are you getting on?
Lots of furry friends, guys. I kind of feel like Deric Doolittle here this morning. We're live broadcasting here from the DSPCA down in Rathfarnham in South County Dublin. Gee, what a beautiful part of the world.
It is, it's fantastic. We've 32 acres up at the foot here of the Dublin Mountains. You have the Hellfire Club, you've got the whole of Dublin Bay, and you can see them all from one or two spots here in the shelter.
which is absolutely gorgeous. Now, everyone knows the DSPCA for all the great work they do with cats and dogs, but they also look after bigger animals as well.
We do. We have pigs, we have horses, we have goats, we have ducks, chickens, geese. We've pretty much every sort of animal you can imagine.
Yeah, now, first up, let's get into the horses, because you have a good few horses here at the moment.
We do. We have a lot of things, and they're fluid. They come, they go. We've a lot that we've managed to rehome successfully, and the animals are here until we can find homes for them.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of cases of animal cruelty involved. I mean, you take in the horses, some of them quite distressed.
They can be very distressed, they can be badly injured, sometimes they're sick, they've been neglected, and our goal basically is to try and get the animals back up to full strength and then find new homes for them.
And you have a couple of nice paddocks down there at the back as well, so there's plenty of space to roam around.
Lots and lots of space, and you can see our lovely goat who likes to live with the horses. He identifies as a horse.
Yeah.
So we've a wide variety of strange and interesting animals.
Speaking of the goats then, you have a couple of goats here.
We do, yeah. We've a whole little herd of friendly ones. So they're fantastic animals. Obviously, a lot of the goats come into us because they're strays or because people think they're a great idea to have to keep the grass short, and they'll just eat everything else.
And do you manage to rehome them, or what's the story with them then?
Yeah, so we keep a friendly herd here because it helps us integrate the new animals when they come in. It makes it easier for us to treat them, bring them back into the field, out of the fields when we need to look after them. But yes, we do look for homes for them periodically.
Now, we met the pigs earlier on this morning. There was 3 of them down there. Some of them we were talking were micro pigs. They were very small when they came in.
They were. They get big. They get big, bigger than a lot of people expect. And a lot of people think it would be great to have a pig in the garden, but you won't have a garden. You'll just have a pile of mud. That's what they do. That's when they're happiest. They love rooting in the mud, but you need a very specialist way of caring for them if you're going to have it. And keeping them in a back garden in the city is not a good plan.
It's not a good plan. So you wouldn't recommend anyone to get pigs unless you're a farmer and you have a bit of space at home.
Unless you've got a decent amount of space and you know a bit about what you're doing, and there's a few bits of legislation around keeping them. So yeah, you have to really know what you're doing if you're going to keep them.
You've also got the hens, the geese and the ducks here. Very friendly little guys.
We do. They've all come into us from different reasons. A lot of them are rescue, and they've come into us because people have there again got animals, thought they were easy to keep. They're not easy to keep. They require a lot of special work, and a lot of those have come into us. Also, sometimes come in as strays.
Yeah, and if you've got a little bit of space at home, you've got a little bit of a run or a coop, you can get fresh eggs every morning.
You can. Well, you
They're all
won't get
looking
that
for
many.
homes.
Absolutely, but there again, there's legislation and rules about keeping the fowl. You have to keep them safe. Make sure the foxes don't get them, cats and other animals don't get them. So there's a lot more husbandry keeping these animals than people think.
All right, we're going to come back to you in a few minutes'
Perfect.
time, Gillian, because we're going to pop over here to Caroline. And Caroline, you're in the small animal department, right?
Yes, so it's the grand opening today of the Small Animal and Exotics House. So yeah, we're here with some of our rabbits.
Yeah, so let's take a look here because we've got Sugar first. Tell us about Little Sugar.
So Little Sugar, he is about 6 months old. He came into us, he was found by somebody in a cardboard box, which is unfortunately very common over especially over the last few months, just rabbits being abandoned. So he's one of them. He's falling asleep there.
I know, he's such a peaceful little fella, isn't he? So quiet.
He is such a good rabbit, and he's up for adoption, as are all the animals here today.
Okay, and Rebecca's looking after him here this morning.
Yeah, Rebecca's been fostering him for the last few weeks.
Okay, and you can foster here at the DSPCA,
yeah? Absolutely, especially for animals that are waiting for certain procedures to be done. They need to go out to foster homes just to give them a break from the shelter and to give us kind of more space to take animals in as well.
Just over our shoulder here as well, we have Robin and this gorgeous little guinea pig. Tell us about this guinea pig.
This is Angelica. Her two sisters are in the run as well. She is one of 13 that were brought in by the inspectors. And yeah, a few of her sisters have had babies. But she luckily is not pregnant. So herself and her sisters are up for adoption. They're on our website. And a few of the other babies will be ready in a few weeks.
And they're gorgeous pets for kids as well.
They're brilliant. The thing about guinea pigs, they're very social. They need to be in groups or more, like in pairs or groups of 3 or 4. And yeah, they're great pets. They can be very affectionate and very vocal and stuff. So they're very cute.
Caroline, lovely to have you with us this morning. Gillian, before we wrap up, we've got the memorial garden down the back of the paddocks.
We do. So our memorial garden is our fantastic place for people who have lost pets. What they can do is they can come and they can put a plaque there to remember their pets, because it's all about having a nice tranquil place that people can come, remember their fantastic pets they have, and then maybe think about adopting a new one.
And you've also got an event coming up. What's it called and what's it about?
We do. We have the Big Stretch, which is our yoga event. So it's actually happening this weekend. And what people can do is they come along, they do a special trained yoga event, and then they can come and visit all the animals.
All right. Well, before we let you go, it is our grand opening here this morning. What are we opening here this morning, Rachel?
So it's the DSPCA Small Animal and Exotics House.
Good morning, everyone, by the way. Big wave here. So we've got the scissors in hand. We've got Manus, our big bunny, here. So a 3, a 2, August a hen. Woo! We're officially open. DSPCA.ie for more information. But for now, we hope you enjoyed this morning. Back to studio. Well done, Manus.
Done. Officially open.
High five.
Look at that. High five, Bunny.
High five, Bunny. Bunny can't see you, Deric.
Oh, well done. Well done. That's so good. Good
Hi, your Bunny going
there. The DSPCA, amazing.
They do amazing work.
And absolutely.
And Gillian there, my God, how long Gillian's been coming in here for years.
Willing
it's a
to
shame
donate.
we need it.
Yeah. They appreciate it.
Really
now, that is all we have time for today. We have another busy show lined up for tomorrow. She recently received a standing ovation for the America's Got Talent audience. Singer-songwriter Stephanie Rainey is going to be here to chat about the experience. She's obviously Irish.
From Cork.
She is, yeah.
Okay.
After our most successful European Athletics Championships, David Gillick will be here to talk about his hopes for Paris 2024.
And we meet an adult film industry power couple who are coming in tomorrow to share their experiences.
Aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They might even show us some of them. We're live tomorrow from
they
7.
Won't. It'll be clean.
We're a very clean show. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.